to get true AI lift is you need to change the way that you're doing work. You need to go from being a doer to being a reviewer. You need to go from doing the work to having AI with the right constraints, do the first 80%, 85%, and then you need to have the critical eye and subject matter expertise to get it over the line. They have gone the route of build everything ourselves. And so their team, a handful of members, 2 or 3 members in particular, they kind of jokingly call themselves professional vibe coders. And so they have spent the last 9 months using Claude Code to build their own business operating system. And this is their own specialized built ERP. It's connected to the manufacturing equipment and the sensors. It's connected to cameras on the manufacturing line. It's connected to the trucks and routing of the trucks. And so this, and I want to emphasize, this is critically important. This is not a technical team. A couple members of the team have engineering degrees, but not software engineering degrees. And so they have taught themselves vibe coding, and that's like Claude Code. That's the tool that they use to build almost all of this. And then Supabase, which folks might know is a common database that you can use for non-technical people. And so that both from a value creation standpoint, and that they built their own very hyper-tailored technology system in a relatively short time, 9 months, and it runs the entire business, including CRM, everything. So they don't pay for SaaS subscriptions. They've really built it. And in their experience, it's been, very reliable. They've ran into problems before, but they fixed them. And now, after a pretty painful period of, making sure things work, they've gotten past that. And now they have this incredibly unique operating system for their specific business. That's one way to do it. Vibe code everything yourself, completely custom. The other way is there's an insurance agency here in New Hampshire that has crushed. They were a small team, and they've since bought up 2 other agencies in the last 3 years. And they partnered very early with one of those. It's basically a specialized provider. And so you can kind of think of them like an employee resource planning tool, like an ERP, except it's entirely based on AI, and it's entirely specialized, in this example, on insurance agencies. And so this has become their operating system. They don't own the tool like the guy who vibe coded it. It's a tool that they use in their business that someone else built, but that they've kind of worked closely with, and they were an early pilot of it. And now they've gotten the lift where they're not technology people, but they're damn good insurance agents. And so they're now able to compete with insurance agencies that have, in the words of the CEO, 5 times the headcount. They're able to turn around tasks and get quotes and things of that nature, highlight what coverage isn't covered in certain scenarios, right? In insurance, you're in the business of mitigating risk. And what I think is so important is they've come to trust this. They're in the business of mitigating risk, and they've come to trust this in their day-to-day work. So it's incredibly reliable. It's incredibly consistent. And so many times you hear people say the technology isn't ready. BS. It 100% is. It's just a matter of how do you set it up with the right context, with the right constraints, so that it can do the work for you. Just like an incredibly smart employee, a new employee that you hire, they don't know everything out of the box. AI is the same way. It doesn't know everything out of the box. But that would be 2 really tangible examples, hopefully, that folks can grasp onto, and taking the vibe coding route, building everything custom, getting tremendous lift, versus being strategic and finding a very specialized, they call it vertical AI provider, and buying in deeply. The hard part is you have to change your entire workflows, right? You have to change how work is done in your team. But that's what it takes to get true AI lift, is you need to change the way that you're doing work. You need to go from being a doer to being a reviewer. You need to go from doing the work to having AI with the right constraints, do the first 80%, 85%, and then you need to have the critical eye and subject matter expertise to get it over the line.
I'm even thinking in regards to think of fields like commercial or residential construction, which are very heavily family-owned businesses nationally. How could I'm just thinking, even on the estimating and the quoting side, which can be heavily time intensive, taking all information, even if you're leveraging a software solution and putting things in, figuring out, how do I do change orders? How do I map things through this? Oh, this is a very complicated project. Everything's very, I think sometimes resistance is this is so unique. Every project's unique. You don't understand. But there's a nuance that your brain's learned for you to do it. True? If your brain's learned to do something and you've had and understand the nuances of that, then AI can learn too, and faster and more efficiently. and more accurately over time, correct? And so you can kind of free yourself up to amplify your your intel. Is that a good way to put it?
I think so. I think so. And I think as we're looking at like the graph of like what is AI good at and what is AI not good at, and how can we maximize what AI can do for us. AI is excellent at any kind of data entry, automating data entry. AI is incredible at analyzing large data sets that would take humans incredible amounts of time to do manually,
Yeah.
right? AI is incredibly good at generating content. It's incredibly good at supporting decisions like quoting and things of that nature. And it's really good at reading and summarizing information effectively. So like those are 5 things that AI is incredibly good at: automating data entry, analyzing large data sets, generating content, helping you make better decisions, and then, summarizing information effectively. Where AI is not good at, and where you are critically important as the subject matter expert, as the business owner, is deep domain expertise. It takes time to build your knowledge base, information, right? Deep domain expertise still takes, human judgment and years of expertise. Where AI is not necessarily good at is fixing broken processes. AI is really good at optimizing the thing that you give it. And so if you give it a broken process and you haven't diagnosed the real root problem, it's not going to be super helpful, right? That's why you hear AI slop, because if you're not giving, garbage in, garbage out, if you're not giving the right context and the right information, you're not being precise and specific like you would to a good employee, the output's not going to be good. And I'd say the third thing, the final thing that AI is really not good at is nuanced context, right? And you can help with this by having call transcripts, where if you have, your call note system tracked to, maybe a system that's using to draft your emails, right? Over time, these systems can learn your tone and can sound more like you. But ultimately, like the domain expertise, fixing processes that are broken, and, a lot of nuance is really where humans need to shine.